Okay, go.
Well, good morning. I'm Cindy Andrews, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Lorain County. We have the honor and privilege of connecting people who care with causes that matter.
Terrific. Thank you, Cindy, for doing this. Just a couple of questions. The first one is, please describe the priority needs you're seeking to address through your COVID-19 funding opportunities.
Well, it seems hard to believe, David, that this was just a couple weeks ago, but thank you for the question and for the chance to share with your listeners. We immediately took a look at our regular grant cycle, and many of your folks might not know we award about $6.2 million annually in grants and scholarships. And one of those grants was to and is to Second Harvest, our local food bank, supporting 93 food pantries. And our board was meeting that Wednesday morning and immediately put through an emergency grant, thanks to a generous donor in our community, so that we were able to deliver a check to Second Harvest for $250,000. We knew they would know where those dollars could best be spent. We know their pantry network of 93 food pantries and how best to get that money out into the community. And so that was literally the week of the shutdowns within our schools. And so it was a great opportunity to work with a trusted partner here in the community, and we continue to support their efforts as well.
Terrific. So have you changed? Are there any ways that you've changed or shifted your grant making response to COVID-19?
Well, I would suggest two things. The first is obviously the grant cycle. And so we have 4 affiliate funds, they have their cycles, but we also have these 2 larger community cycles. And so that group, our grants committee, would typically review those in the May timeframe. And so we bumped up that process 30 days for any of those grants that fit what we called an emergency services. And so food, housing, shelter, seniors, medicine. And as a result of that, there are 12 grants that will be reviewed by our grants committee actually next Wednesday. So we moved it up about a month and a half, and those grants will be recognized next week. They'll be reviewed by the committee, and then that recommendation made to the board so that those dollars can be distributed much sooner than they would on a normal path. But the second thing we've done, David, that I'd like to share is thanks to the help with the Nord Family Foundation and the Nordson Corporation Foundation and the Stocker Foundation and 8 other funders in Lorain County, we were able to come together, and as you've seen in many parts of the country, pulled together a emergency response fund. And so we're calling our fund the Lorain County CARES COVID-19 Response Fund. And that fund started with $100,000 from those local funders. It has since grown to $130,000. We had a mail pickup today, and I understand there's another check for $500 there. Folks can donate online. And so what we've been able to do is stand up a fund with no administrative fees and literally be able to put those dollars back into the community. And so we did this. We looked at processes that Cincinnati had put together in Columbus and the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. And so really streamlined those operations. The committee, the review, is actually made up of folks from those agencies, the people that are doing this work day in and day out. And so the 8 funders announced a committee of 8, so they each nominated someone to that process. It's a 1.5-page application, much streamlined. And within that first week, 11 grants were reviewed, and the committee met Friday afternoon, decided on the top 5 that they would like to initially fund. The others just stay in the queue, and those grants, those checks are being cut today, and we'll have a press release tomorrow. So we're trying to be as responsive as we can be, in particular in the areas of emergency assistance, and that includes our seniors, youth programs and youth development, because we know so many students are at home these days, and so why not provide for arts and culture there. And then the third, David, we're calling infrastructure, but it really is about the digital divide and how do we make sure that kids are home can stay connected to their schools and to their schoolwork.
Well, that is terrific. Thank you, Cindy, for outlining that. Now, some of the organizations that I've been talking to have not traditionally received funding. How would an organization that is new approach you for funding for the new opportunities?
Well, thank you for that question, because we do know there are new nonprofits. We also know that there are new collaborations taking place when folks see a need. We represent 34 different communities, and so we like to say that our door is open. We are welcoming to all, and while our office may physically be closed, virtually we are there. Our grants are listed on our website, peoplewhocare.org. And any small organization can apply for a grant. Thanks to the Lakeland folks, we actually have a mini grant process, David, and so that's a $500 single page application. And so many of our smaller nonprofits will actually go online, make that request, and that request is turned around within 30 days. So that certainly is very responsive. This next grant cycle with regard to our emergency response fund, we shared that with all of our affiliate funds. We shared that with our nonprofits so that word could get out. And thanks to the folks at Candid, we'll actually be doing a webinar next week with one of those groups through our Hispanic fund so that folks that typically have not applied for a grant, through their help, getting that word out there so folks can see it really is a relatively easy process, and we want to be as responsive to those needs in the community as we can.
That's great. That is terrific. Now, given the uncertainty and changing dynamics, how should organizations address their budgets in the proposals?
Well, thank you for that question. We went back and forth about 2019 versus 2020. And so what we decided to do was really ask them to put a 2020 budget together. So we assume folks are closing their books, but they may not be in the office. And so how can we, again, streamline that process? And so we asked them to outline what their 2020 needs and priorities might be. And some things might have changed. There might be dollars that would typically flow, or the window for funding might be changed given the emergency and what all of the agencies are trying to accomplish.
All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Absolutely. Delighted to be with you.
Great.